How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with the end of season review for Final Fantasy. Not Final Fantasy. What am I talking about? Fantasy Premier League. That's what we're talking about. A different type of fantasy. Yeah, we're here. We're gonna do just kind of freestyle it with an end of season review. I got some good news. My lights are gonna be coming in soon, so I'm gonna be able to do some stuff. I just have to wait for the stands after that, so that should be good. Also, we have a little fun thing because United came third. So we can get to do funny things like this soon, once I have the webcam set up on the stands that I was talking about. And we can be in front of Old Trafford doing a whole bunch of craziness, or when we're in the Champions League or something like that. You know, we can have the Champions League background. So yeah, it's gonna be quite fun, hopefully, and it should be quite interactive. We'll be doing this with a bunch of the games that we're gonna be playing too. So yeah, should be fun. Should definitely be fun. But the one nice thing is that when I have the other webcam, I'll be able to make it so that I can go wider, so I can stand up or you know, have a better kind of background going on here. But yeah, let's talk about how we did in the season. So let's check out my team. So this is the team up on the screen here. Did pretty good. Got a little bit higher rank overall for this game week. We end up with 71 points with the -4. We picked a good captain because Sterling scored, got himself a clean sheet point, plus went past 60 minutes, which was nice. Obviously, if we would have captained De Bruyne, that would have been a lot better. But as long as you get a captain that scored, it's always a successful captaincy choice, in my opinion. We're going to be going over a bunch of different things here. We're going to check out kind of the predictions I usually do. We're going to check out how we did in Pep Roulette. I also forgot to bring up the what's it called? The buy, hold, sell. We can do that on the fly too. That'd be quite interesting. And then we also have other videos coming out this week. Going into next week, we're gonna be doing goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and forwards, and those are all gonna be for potential price changes, and then we're also going to do ones for position changes, just in general, for defenders, midfielders, and forwards. That's going to be in like one big video. It's going to be a longer video for like a bunch of the players that people probably think will happen, and then I'll probably put their prices at the same time as well, so that'd be quite interesting to see as well. Obviously those won't be official, that'll be just something that you can just kind of speculation and whatnot. Yeah, let's just kind of run through the team really quickly. So all ones across the back line, you know, not great. Obviously, you know, Burnley was kind of highly touted going into this game week, and a lot of people had them for their team. And unfortunately, they didn't keep a clean sheet versus Brighton, which was a bit unfortunate, all things considered. My bench didn't score too many points either, so Calvert-Lewin starting in my team initially, but obviously starting on the bench versus Bournemouth. Didn't end up being that big of a difference. It was just 1 point. I didn't lose by 1 point in anything else. I won one of my mini leagues, which was good, so that was for a little bit of change there. Another bigger league, I think there was around several hundred people. I came 12th in, so it's not terrible, which was, you know, if you got top 4, you won like $250 or something, with the winner winning like 500 or 1,000 or something like that, which would have been nice. But you know, 12th isn't too bad for the first time, you know, taking it super seriously and going for it. And then for the midfield, obviously the midfield did great. When we saw the team news was fake, I was kind of worrying a bit. Saw Foden in there, I was like, well, Foden can score a bunch of goals. This is going to be terrible. And you know, the likes of it's just going to be it's going to be a nightmare. What game is this? This is Fantasy Premier League. So this is a fantasy sports game based around Premier League football, which is English football in the UK. So basically, it's just like any other fantasy sport, like fantasy basketball, baseball, American football. It's the same thing, but except for soccer or football, whatever you want to call it. And the last season just finished, so I'm just going over my team here. Overall, there's around how many players are there? 7.6 million players, so I don't know how many that is comparison to the American sports. But we ended up 33,843rd overall, which is pretty good. Happy birthday, Bend Over. I got you. Happy birthday to Bend Over. Yeah, that's a pretty creative name. Caught on halfway through. But happy birthday to Ben. But yeah, getting back to where we were. The Man City and Man United boys did quite good. Martial getting 6 points. Thank you, Brendan, for following. Much appreciated. Martial getting an assist. Fernandez getting a goal and some bonus points. De Bruyne going absolutely nuts, scoring 2 goals. Both of them were absolute beauties. Sterling getting his goal, who we captain, and then Mars getting a goal assist off the bench was quite good for us as well. Then we had Harry Kane from the previous week. We brought him in for a hit. He ended up getting his 3 goals across 2 games, which is definitely more than we could have asked for, and he did quite well for us overall. Let's look at the results here. We'll kind of bring across the snippet tool to kind of check out how we did prediction-wise. So Arsenal, we end up getting 1 point for that. So the way we do our scoring system is if we get the exact score right, it's 3 points. If you get the result right, so if I picked a team to win and they did win by any score line, you get 1 point. If you get the result completely wrong, then you get 0 points. So in the case here, I said Arsenal win 3-1, they won 3-2, so we only get 1 point for that. Burnley did not beat Brighton, they lost 2-1, so we don't get any points for that. Wolves didn't beat Chelsea either. I'm pretty sure I got all of these wrong, to be fair, so it's not great this week. Crystal Palace and Spurs, they end up drawing. I predicted Tottenham to win 2-0. My favorite is Manchester United. It's the... I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can see it in the preview. Manchester United. That is my team. In terms of like other regions, if I had to pick a team for the MLS, I followed it for a little bit back when I was a teenager. I like Chicago Fire because I had a guy on there named DeMarcus Beasley, I think his name was. He was sick. And then for other different regions, if I had to pick, I would pick Juventus for Italy. Real Madrid for Spain. Germany, I would probably pick Bayern Munich if I had to pick one. Trying to think of all the other regions. Portuguese, I would pick Sporting, Lisbon. French, nobody follows the French league anyway. But Everton ended up losing to Bournemouth actually 3-1, so we didn't get any points there. Leicester United ended up winning. Yep, we got a lot of big donuts here for our points. Liverpool 3-1 over Newcastle. We said 3-0, so we get 1 point. Southampton won 3-1 instead of 2-1, and Aston Villa drew. So we actually only end up getting 3 out of the 10 results right, which isn't great. We'd like to get at least 5 or 6 like we did last week out of the possible 10. However, we did okay, I think, with the differential picks. Obviously, Burnley and Pope did not keep a clean sheet. Braithwaite didn't do very well for Everton. Mane did score, and Aubameyang did quite well himself. So we got 2 out of 5 there. So not terrible. In terms of the actual what happens in the table, obviously the top 4 teams were Liverpool, then Manchester City, then Manchester United, then Chelsea. Came down to the final day. What's my job in real life? I do IT work. I'm an IT technician, person, networking kind of thing. And I'm just an avid football or soccer fan on the side. And we like to do a bunch of different stuff here. I'm going to be playing a few games eventually. I don't know if you're familiar with Detroit Become Human, but that's going to be one of the games that we play. We're also going to be playing Final Fantasy. My team got top 4, so happy. Who's your team? Jones, are you talking about your actual team or? Well, it's got to be City, Chelsea, Liverpool, or United. Unless you're talking about your mini league. Yeah, in terms of the games, Aston Villa stayed up, which was quite astonishing from where they were from the restart after the lockdown. Bournemouth getting relegated, they're probably going to have their team ripped apart, and they're probably going to get in the championship and not be able to come back up, unfortunately for them. Norwich is probably going to end up the same way. I'm excited about Leeds. West Brom, I didn't really want to come up, and I hope Brentford makes it out of the teams that are being promoted. In terms of the FA Cup final, we want Chelsea to win that, mainly because if you're a Chelsea fan, yeah. So H. Jones would want Chelsea to win the FA Cup final. But the reason I want Chelsea to win the FA Cup final is because, one, if Arsenal win the FA Cup, then they'll go ahead of United again, I think, or they'll be 2 ahead, which we can't have that, obviously. And 2, if Chelsea beat Arsenal, that means Wolves get into Europa League again, and Arsenal don't, which is what we want, because we don't like Arsenal. And neither does Chelsea, so hopefully Chelsea can beat them. Mind you, couldn't be arsed either way, but nonetheless, I would just like to see Arsenal's hopes and dreams, their one hope of European football, get crushed. I think it was like a 25-year run that Arsenal has been in European football, which is insane. Which showed how good of a manager Arsene Wenger was. So could be quite interesting there. Let's take a look. I think I have. So this is going to look a bit weird on the screen. I'm just going to move it over just a little bit here. So this was our predicted lineup for Pep Roulette as well. Ederson was in goal. I believe Walker did play as well. But he had Garcia and Laporte. Mendy wasn't in the squad. I believe it was Cancelo again. Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva, Jesus, and Sterling. We got right. Gundogan we did not because Fernandinho played CDM, I think. And then Mahrez was off for Foden, although Mahrez did come in, so it ended up working out well. So we got the majority. We got four out of 6 of the main people, right? Or 4 out of 5, because basically De Bruyne, Silva, Sterling, Jesus, and Mahrez's positions are kind of the important ones. So overall, not the end of the world there. Let's take a look at our game week history. This is going to be interesting. So, after the first game week, did we ever go into above 1 million? I don't think we did. Yeah, the highest we ever were was after game week 4, where we were in a very bad state, where we were close to 900k, which was quite bad. But then we did really well in game weeks 10 and 11. And we kind of stayed inside the top 100k. Then we went way back up again into game week 22. Then we slowly brought our way back down. And then we never really left the top 100k-ish mark. And then we finished on 33k, which was quite good. In terms of total transfers, we did 59 total transfers. So what does that work out to be? So there was 38 game weeks, so we get a free transfer per game week. So 59 minus 38, what's that? 21? I took 21 hits? Really? 21 times 4. 84 points worth of hits? It's quite a lot, actually. Now that I think about it. Game week points, PB. Yeah, Yeah, that's quite a lot of hit points. Probably should do less of that next season. I think that's probably one thing I would probably look to improve on, would be the number of hits I take, because you have to think about, is it going to be worth it over the time period you're going to have the player in? Sometimes it's better to just kind of stick with the players that you have, even though they might not be doing as good. But actually, let's check our chip usage. So we wildcarded in game week 10. Where we got 83 points. Okay, so that was when we did really good. So our wildcard team. Let's actually go check that. I'm gonna open that up in a different tab. So game week 10 is gonna be way back here. I hate when it does that. Stop clicking on things. Maybe I could just do this. Ah, there we go. So we wildcarded into a massive score. We brought in... Who did we have the previous game week? So we had Mount, Sterling, Abraham still in the team. We had Rico, Robertson, Mane. That looks like a really weird team looking back on it now, when Pookie was actually doing somewhat good back then. Then we wildcarded. We got in Soyuncu, who did really good for us. Hudson-Odoi didn't do great, but we got in Sterling, De Bruyne, Vardy went absolutely crazy. Yeah, this is when he got 3 goals and an assist when they won 9-0. Yeah, that was pretty nuts. We got Ramsdale's 8 points. And then Soyuncu got 14 points. Abraham 12 again. Yeah, we did pretty good. We even had a 9-point goalkeeper on our bench at that point. Let's see. Bench boost was played in game week 30 plus. So that would be... what, like 40? Nope. One before it. So our bench boost would have been... Who would we have had on our bench? We would have had Target, Grealish, or Target, Douglas Luiz. Probably Lundstrom, I guess, and Leno. So Leno would have got 6, Lundstrom would have made it 11, Target would have made it 19, and Luiz would have made it 23. So our bench boost got us 23 points, which is quite good, I would think. Douglas Luiz was a double game week player, so was Target, so was Lundstrom, so was Leno. But Leno got injured as well in the second game, so ended up working out okay. Wildcard in game week 31 plus. Yeah, we brought in Salah to get 11 points, so that was quite good. The Everton players didn't work out. In hindsight, that was probably... I should have probably played my free hit here. In hindsight, because then I could have tested, like, to see if the Everton players were going to do well. And then go from there. Because my game week 30 players would have had, like, decent fixtures. So, like, Aston Villa would have been okay versus Wolves. Wolves getting a clean sheet, so Jimenez would have done... did Jimenez score in this game? No, he didn't. But, like, Bali would have done well in this game. I could have just played Dean Henderson, who would have... Where's Sheffield? The Sheffield United 3-1 versus Spurs. So, wouldn't have had a clean sheet, but it would have probably been okay, I think. So, I probably should play my free hit then. I then did play my free hit in 33, which in hindsight again was also bad because that could have been my wild card. Did pretty good though, to be fair. Dunk, Van Dijk, Trent was okay. Fernandes, Martial, Rashford, Salah were all decent picks. Connolly could have scored as well, which would have been good. But we were a bit unfortunate there. Trip captain, game week 35. was Vardy, right? Yeah. So it could have been Vardy. It could have been Sterling. Imagine if I would have put it on Sterling. That would have been so good. I would have ended up with 42 more points minus Vardy's 14. So that would have been extra 28. I don't think that would have been enough to get me first in the league I came second in. But nonetheless, overall, a pretty good season. I just didn't want to. I just wanted to definitely make it inside the top 100k. Top 50k was originally like the really good goal, and we got even further than that, which was quite good. So I'm happy with that. Yeah. See, these are the previous seasons that I played. So didn't play this full season because, as you can see by the points total. I think this season I stopped. I didn't play the first like few weeks, or didn't really know much about the game at the time. This season I took like somewhat seriously for the most part, and we got 160k, which is quite unlucky. But this season was like, did research, obviously revolved the channel around it, that sort of stuff. So we definitely want to obviously keep this rank or better for seasons to go on for. So that's why like the first real season for me is probably this one. So like these first two in particular definitely don't count, because this was my first season of just like knowing the game. It was kind of just me bringing in random players for the most part. This one was an incomplete season. This one was like I kind of took seriously, but again, still probably like learning the game and whatnot. I think it takes like a season or two to really kind of learn the game, and then once you know that there are resources there, so like obviously early team news was the thing, chip strategy, because they just, I think in 2018 2019 they introduced the free hit chip, I think, if I remember correctly. Which was something that we had to get used to as well, so that would have been the first season using it. But chips are they're skill based as to when you use them or why you would use them, but in terms of how they pan out, like I know some people that tried to triple captain Mane in the double game week when he got injured early on in the season. One of the guys on the Scoutcast did that, and there's no luck or whatever involved in using the chip. If he scores a hat trick, he scores a hat trick. If he gets injured, he gets injured. Like there's nothing really you can do about it. So at that point, it's kind of a luck based. The one thing I wish they would do is with the deadline. So the deadline's an hour before kickoff. The problem is that lineups come out at the same time, and now with social media and stuff, you have people making in the know accounts and all that sort of stuff, pretending that they have lineup news, or actually leaking that they have lineup news. There was the one account that had a bunch of different like a bunch of followers on it for the Liverpool lineup, when it was forgot to change that setting there. There we go. That's probably a little bit better. So my shirt looks a little bit more blue and less green. But yeah, there was an in the know account for, I think it was FPL Physio or somebody that FPL Physio knew, and basically they knew the Liverpool team news was going to be a completely different team. So what he did, they leaked out the team, and everyone's bricking. They're like, oh no, Salah's not playing, Mane's not playing, Trent's not playing. They're playing a full youngster team, and that kind of stuff is just, I mean, if you're in a fun league where people don't really check that kind of stuff, then it takes the fun out of it. So you go like, oh no, my expensive players are like, they're not playing in the final game week of the season, and it kind of ruins the fun for it. So either one or two things I think they need to do. One, they either move it back an hour, as in the time. So like if the kickoffs are at midday UK time, the deadline should be 10 a.m. UK time. So there's less likelihood of team news being leaked or something like that. Because it seems like the media get the lineups around 15 minutes before they're released on like the official social media sites and stuff. So that would probably make it so that it would cause less issues there. You can also put it just like 24 hours before, like the previous day, which could be, there could be some things involved where people might like not like it as much. So like as an example, if you made it midnight of the game night before, the likelihood of you getting team news that early before, so if the first kickoff was midday UK time and you got it was locked in midnight UK time, then everyone around the world has a chance to set their team and that sort of stuff, and nobody's likely to get the team news or anything like that. The problem is that you can have last minute injuries and stuff like that, which can happen normally anyway, or people, getting injured in warm up or whatever. And you'll have very few instances where you'll say like, oh well, like earlier this season, Vardy didn't travel with the team, and people were like speculating, oh, he's not going to play, and that's when Iheanacho played, and Vardy wasn't in the team at all, because he was injured. Or like you get photos of people, like the training photos. Oh, this person, like Vardy's not in training or something like that, and he still plays anyway because people are doing whatever. Like they're just trying to drum up news for whatever reason. Another alternative, which I think is better, is you move the deadline up like half an hour. So Sky, there's a Sky fantasy game as well. That's mainly for UK and like Ireland and people of the, that region. And basically they have the deadline in between when you get the lineups or line up if it's just the one game. Obviously game week 38 is an exception because every team has to play at the same time for, just relegation and promotion and all that sort of stuff reasons. And basically they have it to where it's in between those two, so that you can look at the lineups. You may be more incentivized to bring in somebody who is playing in the first game. So like if you say, oh yeah, I'm looking at this Chelsea player, this Man City player, or something like that, where they have like a somewhat deep squad, and you're like, but I'm not sure if they're gonna play. You get the lineup into the early team, then you may be more inclined to bring them in. You have about a half an hour to do it. The site goes down for half an hour and is back up in time by kickoff. Now, I don't know how long it takes for the site to update itself and do the things that it needs to do, if it does take the full hour like it does now or what have you, because the site does go down for basically up until around 5 to 10 minutes thereabouts before kickoff, which is around 50 minutes total. So that could also be an issue. You could also do it right up until kickoff, but again, like I said, I don't know if the site needs to go down to update or refresh or whatever it may be. I'm perfectly fine with both. I think that, trying to guess different lineups and stuff like that is, at least later on in the season, somewhat of a logic and skill-based, like, talent. So, like, logically, it makes sense that Mahrez should have started in this final game week, which is why I brought him in, and I got rid of Foden. Foden did start, and Mahrez didn't, but I knew that obviously 30 minutes for Mahrez or thereabouts, he would still get some points, potentially. Obviously, the luck factor is him coming on 45 minutes at halftime, Foden gets taken off, and he ends up getting a goal and assist. That's kind of the unlucky factor for the people that have Foden and thought that Foden would start. So I think that on the final game day of the season, I think that it's better for people to make educated, like, decisions based off of known information. Because if you have a situation where, you're going to have all these Twitter accounts popping up and stuff like that, and people who are, even some of the hardcore players or people that are dedicated to the game, you have basically a 15-minute window or less in most cases from when a early in the know account leaks the team news, and then from there you have to make your best judgment as to whether is this person actually legit, or is it a bunch of nonsense? And you make your transfers based off that. I think it would be better if we got the lineup, and then a half an hour later was the deadline, or even 15 minutes. Like, I'm perfectly fine with the first 5 minutes of the first game, your the website being down or whatever, because that doesn't really matter for the most part, right? Like, the likelihood of somebody scoring a goal in the first 5 minutes of the first game of the week is, not very likely. I mean, it's highly unlikely in just any game in general. If it would have been this game week, it would have been terrible, but because there were people Newcastle scored in the first 23 seconds. But you would know what happened there, because the FPL site shows you who gets the goal, who gets the assist, and that sort of stuff. But some people like to just keep their team up all the time and auto-refresh and stuff like that. And I'm guilty of that too. But, I think at the end of the day, I think the deadline being so close to when the teams are released, and that's another thing. If the deadline is after when the team sheet is released, instead of going and relying on these in-the-know accounts sometimes, you could just go straight to the proper source. Like, if I know that Arsenal versus Watford, as an example, is the first game of the week, I go look at Arsenal's social media, Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and same for Watford's. Check the team, say, okay, yeah, Aubameyang is starting, but Lacazette's also starting, so Aubameyang's playing on the left. Do I want to bring him in? Or whatever it may be. It's just a bunch of different things to kind of consider. In terms of top 3 things that I would say that I can do better for next season, one, probably the main one, don't take too many hits. That would probably be something to kind of reduce. Maybe stick to players a lot more. 2, probably do a bit more research in terms of, I think I didn't utilize heat maps or positional play when certain players play with each other. So as an example, after restart, Danny Ings, as an example, who I didn't have for much of the season anyway, kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. And he may have had the golden boot had this change been implemented sooner. But basically, Danny Ings struggled a little bit when Redmond was out of the team, because Danny Ings had to make up for the creativity. So the likes of Long and Armstrong and players like that were getting more of the shots and the involvement in front of goal. And Ings had to be the creator, which took away from Ings' points, potential points, that is, or XG and all that sort of stuff. So I think looking at that kind of positional, heat maps in particular, where people are playing on the pitch when they're playing with certain players. So De Bruyne, as an example, when he plays with David Silva, does he play further out on the flank? Does he play closer towards the middle? I've seen De Bruyne play positions anywhere from in a 4-4-2 system where he's basically the second striker all the way back to center back, basically, in terms of how far he is up the pitch. Or how far back he is on the pitch, So it's gonna be interesting. And then I would say the looking at that next season, it's gonna be interesting looking at the heat maps and that sort of stuff more often. I might integrate that somehow. Hopefully there's a site that gives that sort of stuff away. And then thirdly, I would say when I go to make transfers, I need them to I want them to be meaningful. I can't just obviously the famous phrase is knee jerking. So when somebody scores, they get a goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, you just bring them in and then they just drought all of a sudden. So a lot of people did that with Ings. I'd done that this season with Harry Kane. Luckily for me, when I brought in Harry Kane the second time, he did quite well. He was able to get me, 3 goals across the 2 games, which was, insane. But who's to think that Harry Kane, after scoring, it would have been 1 goal, then a brace, to know that he would have gone on and scored a brace and another goal after that in 2 separate games. He didn't really have much to play for. Yeah, Europa League, but obviously Jose Mourinho thinks it's basically like he won the World Cup, but hey, you know, there are some things like Everton as an example. I got stuck in the whole like Everton like hype. Thought they could be good. Like there was a point where Calvert-Lewin was really good. Richarlison's been like decent all season, but were they actually really good value? Like if we look at like Calvert-Lewin, 126 points. Let's see, 126. How many games did he not play? Two games. 3.5 points per game, which is kind of bad, to be honest. Like, he had this spell here from 23 to 27 where he was quite, 23 to 28 where he was good, and then he didn't score after that. And he had a little bit of a good spell there, too. But it's the players like Raul Jimenez, as an example, who I got punished for last season. Where I didn't make the same mistake, which I basically did the same thing as Raul Jimenez this season with Danny Ings, basically. This type of player that keeps ticking over, doing well, and scoring versus the teams that aren't as good or like on par as like Southampton or Wolves in Jimenez's case. And, you know, keeping these types of players in that'll get you, if they're a forward, they're going to get you 9 points every time they score. Because they'll get one chance, they'll put it in. Their team might lose 2-1, but it doesn't matter. Because they'll get the bonus points, because they're a forward, and that's why the BPS system works as it does. So yeah, 3 things. 1, not as many hits. 2, looking more at like positional play and like heat maps and that sort of stuff, and how players play with each other. And then 3, when I go to make these like transfers, like kind of think about them and kind of not necessarily, don't think about like the player, think about what the player does. So think of them as like a in terms of where they play positionally, what's their price point, what their fixtures look like, and then you can go from there. Like a team that's going to play against a bottom 3 team 3 games running is odds are that they're probably going to do better than a guy who's going to be playing, who's just as equal in skill, or just as equal in like in terms of how strong his team is. Like let's take 2 teams as an example that were like close to each other. Everton came like what, 12th? So like Everton and like Burnley as an example. If Richarlison is up against Man United, Man City, Chelsea next season versus Chris Wood, who's up against Brighton, West Brom, who just got promoted, and let's say Brentford, who just came up, you would probably favor Chris Wood because statistically he should do better versus teams that are worse. Also, then you can bring into certain factors like how are both teams, like that the teams that they play against, good in defense for aerial threat, because Chris Wood is good in the air and so is Richarlison. There's a bunch of different factors, and then form as well. But mostly you got to be looking at fixtures and their price point, and then how you're going to basically utilize them over the next few game weeks. Because you never want to bring in somebody just for one game week unless it's going to be for like a punt on somebody, and then you have a wild card or you're doing something afterwards that's going to basically get them out of your team for free. And that typically is going to be for the majority of the season. Now, there's the end of the season where you can do like a bit of a swap, you know, here and there. Like this season, we kind of chased Bournemouth because they were doing bad. That's, you know, like if there's or like the Scoutcast call them, it's the term they use called the whipping boys, which is basically it's just a term for teams that concede a lot of shots and goals effectively, which Bournemouth and Norwich and teams like, and Crystal Palace were teams like that, where they conceded so much, which allows for fantasy assets to do well. So yeah, those 3 I think is definitely going to be things I need to look out for. So take less hits for 1, look at positional play for 2, and 3, looking at the meaning of the transfer that I'm making and how my mindset differed from when I at the end of the game week to the almost the beginning of the next game week, how that changes. So if I think at the end of game week 10, I want to bring in De Bruyne, and just before the start of game week 11, I think, you know what, maybe I should bring in Sterling, as an example. Why did my mindset change because of that? Obviously excluding if it was an injury or something. It was like, maybe why do I want to change that? Is it price point? Is it because of positional play? Is it because of rotation? Is it, what are these, all these sorts of things? So, and I think we can definitely improve. In terms of some early thoughts for next season, I think some players are going to be priced way higher than what they initially were. I'm trying to remember if Pope was 4.5 or 5 million. I wish they would show you how much he was at the beginning of the season. That'd be nice to see. I think De Gea was 5.5. I think that'd be kind of interesting to see. But I think Pope will definitely. Could Pope be 6 million next season? Like, there's going to be a lot of players that are going to go up in price for sure, which is going to hurt a lot of people. Doherty started this season, I think, at 6 million. And he'll probably start at 6.5 next season, which is it expensive for him? Yeah, probably. Will we get another John Lundstrom, who was a 4 million defender playing as a box-to-box / creative midfielder? Probably not. Kevin De Bruyne started the season at 9.5 million. He's probably going to be, if Salah is 12.5 million and Mane is 12 million, I bet De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, players like that will probably be around like 11.5. Like if Jadon Sancho comes and plays for United, he'll probably be 11.5, something like that too. Positional changes is another thing. Aubameyang, as an example, they change your position based on where you play. Now, Aubameyang's played the majority of the season out on the left wing. So will he be a midfielder? Same with Mason Greenwood. Will they be midfielders? Same with Marcus Rashford. Played left wing. It's always a winger in my eyes because of his attributes. Pacey, wants to take a man on, likes to get in behind, cuts in on his right. All the attributes of being a really good out-and-out winger. It just makes the most sense to me. And then Martial will be a forward. So that'll take away... So like this season, Rashford ended up with 177 points, Martial with 200. That could be the other way around, just based on just position next season. Who knows? They might score... They could score more. And then another thing that I was also thinking about is, like, in terms of goalkeepers. So if we go to, I'm just going to pick Arsenal as an example. Leno was a 5 million goalkeeper and Martinez was like 4 million, I think he was initially. Or 4.3 or 4.2 when people started bringing him in. Are they going to take both the goalkeepers, both the starting and the backup, and make them the same price? They might. So like Man United has Romero, who I believe started the season at 5 million and De Gea was 5.5. Are they going to make them both the same price next season? How are they going to price the promoted team? So like this season, Teemu Pukki was 6 million and looked a bargain at that price and then fell off a cliff. I think Leeds' striker, I think his name is Bamford or something like that, who's done quite well. Is he going to be 6 million? He's going to be 6.5. Who knows? Yeah, overall, a good season. Some lessons to learn. I think the chip system is fine as it is as well. I just think the deadline just needs to be changed. Either move it back or move it forward. It can't stay the same as where it is right now. And then it's going to be interesting to see how they change prices and player positions and that sort of stuff. Going into next season. And usually they have the site up about like an hour or so. Not an hour. Like a month or thereabouts before the next season. So if that's the case, we're looking at like a couple of weeks or so, and then the site should be back up with the new player prices and all that sort of stuff, which will be mad. So that would be quite nice. That would be quite nice. Yeah, overall a good season. The channel's been growing quite steadily as well, so I appreciate all of you for that. Actually, let me get to the full screen here. Yeah, the channel's been going steadily, and if you haven't already, follow us on all of the socials here: Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. It's PilotFlame226 on all platforms. We had a great season. Hope you all did as well. Obviously, we were in different times, and the lockdown forced some weird and funny changes with like the wild card for everyone, which hurt and helped some teams, but overall I don't think it changed too much for the most part. Maybe gave some people a slight advantage, but at the end of the day, probably not the end of the world, and I think it was a good thing that they did it. But yeah, going into next season is gonna be interesting. We're gonna be continuing the channel. We're gonna be making our own league as well. We're gonna call it the I don't know if I'm gonna call it Pilot Flames League or Flames Recruits or whatever we want to call it. Flame Lords. I don't know. We'll call it something crazy, but I'll make sure to give an update on that as well. Like I said, make sure to follow us on all the socials. The links are in the description below as well under the socials. And we're going to be posting this over on YouTube as well. Kind of more of a chill thing. We're going to be doing more videos as well this week. Like I said, the price predicted the price changes for goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, forwards. And then after that, we're going to be doing positional changes. And then midway through August, we're going to be doing some gaming stuff. Next week, Tuesday, we're doing some gaming stuff as well. So if you want to break from FPL and you want to watch me get my blind take on a walkthrough style game, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I've seen people play it before, but haven't played Detroit Become Human personally. Looks like a really cool game, and we're gonna have fun with that. So yeah, should be interesting. But yeah, thank you all for joining me. Hope you continue to show the support on the channel as well going into next season. Like I said, follow us on all the socials, and we'll keep going along. We'll keep ticking along going to next season. We've already gone over 500 subscribers on YouTube, which is fantastic. Hopefully we can reach 1,000. That would be great. That's the next milestone, and we can continue to producing fantastic FPL content. And like I said, leave some comments on our YouTube videos and that sort of stuff to let us know if there's any changes that you would like to be made, and we can look at doing that. And yeah, I also mentioned that I'm going to be putting some, like I said, some gaming stuff on this channel. It'll eventually probably be split off into its own, but it's just some fun stuff. If you just want to take a break from FPL and you want to see me rack my brain over a few fun games, then we're just going to add it up there just for added fun. So yeah, hope you all had a good season. 2019-2020 season. 2020 has not been great, but it's going to be getting better because the start of the next FPL season is only right around the corner. And hopefully we can make our way into the top 10K, as that is kind of like the holy grail or the desired position to finish. That's going to be our goal for next season, and hopefully we can get in there. And until the next video, and all the ones that are going to be coming this week, and as soon as the site goes back up, we're going to be doing drafts and that sort of stuff. There's going to be a lot of them. Like I said, make sure to follow us. And until then, take care. I don't know what I was doing then, but yeah. See you guys.